Hi, everybody. Is the sound and video okay? I don't know what happened. It was when I cranked it up, it was like went into one of those things, and I don't know what it was. So, anyway, I hope everything's okay now. Let me know if you can hear me and if the video is okay. Yes, no? Can you hear and see me? Uh-oh. Oh, great. Hi, Dominic. Hi, Robbie. Oh, good. Okay, thank you, guys. Wasn't sure. I don't know what happened. It was seems that every time something new happens. Hi, Turkey Vulture. How you doing? And Bruce. Hey, Bruce. You're an early guy too, huh? Oh boy. Well, um, I, hey, how's it going, Clyde? Oh, I'm glad you came. I was going to ask a question about lawyers. I was they're always a fun group. Hey, James, how you doing? Apathy boy. Okay, it's evening where you guys are. It's morning here. It's sort of in the middle of the day. You got a haircut. Man, you must have some political pull. Hi, Tim. Oh, hi, Tim. Yeah, it's Edgartown. Love Edgartown. Spent some fun summers there. Okay. Yeah, yeah, I do. That's a good one. A white red fox. That's me. Oh man. You know what I wanted to talk about today? After I did that video, when was it? Yesterday, about the professions and watches and moving, sort of like moving up the hierarchy and some kind of work. And I saw some different people with watches and some different professions, and have talked to people in different professions about the kind of watches they like. But I realized that my sample was exactly that, a sample. And so I figured what I would do is that we could talk about that, since most of you guys are in some kind of profession or work or retired from it like I am. um, just to give you an idea, um, when I was a professor, I used to wear my overseas Vessel and Constantin overseas OS1. Hi, Lee. And I don't think there was any of the other faculty that really cared about watches one way or the other. I mean, it was like you could wear any watch you wanted to, and they wouldn't be impressed or unimpressed. It simply was like, well, it's just a watch. Smart watches, quartz watches, mechanical watches. They didn't care. One guy I talked to, he was interested. He had a watch that he got from I guess he inherited from somebody in the family. It was a Mido, and he thought that was worth a lot. No, it wasn't, but that's okay. So anyhow, that's what I've been doing. One thing I got yesterday that was sort of interesting, I thought I'd share with everybody. I got a wooden watch. And, this is my wooden watch. This is going to be one of the prize watches when we have the Grand Prix d'Horlogerie. It's what's it called? The Grand Prix picks. This will be one of the prizes, and um, I've been collecting watches that I've been giving some away too, uh, for that. So, but that's sort of what I've been up to. Um, so, all right. So that was my experience with the professionals I knew. Um, which, how about you? I mean, for those of you who are still working, or if you're retired, what are the kind of watches that you can remember that people sort of enjoyed wearing where you worked, or the kind of profession you had, or if they were like the professors, they simply didn't pay any attention to them. And it was really funny. I don't remember anyone even asking me about my watch. I mean, it was like big old metal bracelet, and it was, well, I think the OS ones were like 37 or something. They weren't huge, but it was just, no one said anything one way or the other. No one ever said, "Oh, that's a nice watch," or "That's unusual," or you know, it just was something that wasn't. It was what I guess you'd say, seen but unnoticed kind of thing. I don't know. Hey, what about your professions? No. Oh, geez. Okay. Well, I guess let me try to guess. I one day I got an interesting note from one of the attorneys, uh, in our sort of, who was one of the subscribers, and he's a very interesting guy. And he was talking about. He said, "Well, the watches that the lawyers have in Boston and New York are one thing." He says, "Out here where we are, and out in the Southwest, they're mostly Rolexes. Mostly the people I see predominantly wear Apple watches. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They can discreetly read text messages in the courtroom and send simple responses. That that makes a lot more sense. I mean, and have um, these other kinds of things. I was once in a federal jury, as well as a prospect in a jury. As soon as they found out I was a professor, they threw me out. But the guy who was the defense attorney for some white collar criminal or defendants was F. Lee Bailey. And Bailey, it was, wasn't, I was right behind him in line in the cafeteria during one of the breaks. Of course, we weren't supposed to speak to each other, but I just noticed the guy was, nothing fancy or flamboyant about him, at least, as, he just sort of seemed like a regular guy. And he didn't have some kind of diamond studded Rolex or something, sort of gaudy like that. In fact, I don't even remember if he what watch he had at all. Probably did, but I wasn't interested in that. Oh, let's see. And then Rolex. Younger guys wear subs or GMTs. Older ones wear date just or day dates. Oh, okay, Clyde. Yeah, that that doesn't surprise me. I don't know why going into court and getting all dressed up, that one wouldn't have a nice watch to go with it. But that's me, and that's now. Maybe when I was younger, I wouldn't think so, or at least when I wasn't collecting watches. Had a friend thought Movado was the best Swiss watch ever. Yeah, I tell you, there's something about Movados. There's something about that style I really like. I mean, if you look at the new H. Moser's concepts, they've got that same sort of blank kind of dial that Movados have. I'm just 20 years old. Oh, good. I can't remember when I was 20. When I was 20, I thought I was getting old. Hey, Mr. Gumby. Um, let's see. Into the stock market, but when I was in college, most of them were wearing iWatches. Yeah. After completing college, my dad got me a Tissot Visual. Now, that's not a bad watch. One of the things about Tissot is that for an entry level, they got some interesting ones that they have. Of course, I like their, what they call, I guess, the Heritage Grand Seconde that they have. That's under $1,000, and a lot under at Joma shop. One thing I noticed though is they quit making them. I don't know why. Maybe they weren't popular, but I thought it was a cool watch. Well, maybe one reason that they weren't very popular was that they were hand wound. My work watch, a Breitling Galactic USA Special 44 steel black dial. Dominic, wait a minute. I was going to say, are you in the the travel business? But I know you're not. So, but that's a work watch. Um, wow, that would be something. I don't know. And the kind of work you do, I wouldn't wear a watch while I was working. but but I do that a lot myself. You have around here. If I go out for a walk or go out and do anything, I put on my sports watch. I never understood the importance of having a sports watch. I always collected dress watches and these other things that I liked and paid too much for. So yeah, those could be very cool. One wears a Cartier tank in gold. Now that's a nice one. Those Cartier tanks, they're very good. Hey, Clam Water or Clam Walker. Hey, Clam, how you doing, man? Rods, a cupcake. There you go. I see a lot of G-Shock, Fitbit, and Apple watches at work. Yeah, but a good friend of mine who he still is a professor. He was a professor somewhere else, and now he's overseas. And he has a G-Shock. He loves his G-Shock. Hey, you got a rough class. I see. Let's see. Normally, nobody even looked at what watch I was wearing. Most people dealt with they didn't wear a watch. That sounds like a lot of professors. I think the only reason they had one was to get the class on time. Most people didn't care if I brought it up. They thought I was bragging, and I gave up. Yeah, it's sort of hard. It's sort of like, if somebody came up to me and said, "Let me tell you about my Barbie doll collection," why me? And I guess the same thing for people who aren't into watches. You can bring up, hey, let me tell you about my toadstools that I got. They just, hey, Mr. Gumby, let's see, did Apple revive or at least revigorate the watch industry from a? Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question, Clyde. The thing is that I've got an iPhone and I've had an iPhone since they first came out. And I was not an early adopter with cell phones. I just figured I got a phone, so I'm all set. And but then I finally got one because my wife wanted to keep track with me, and going, what if you get into trouble or something like that. So I finally got one, and then when the smartphone came out, I started doing some programming on smartphones. They had, trying to think on iPhones, they had two different kinds of languages, one for Apple and then one for the Android. And I started playing around with both of them. And the thing I didn't like about the programming part is that as they put you in like a sort of a structure, a very tight structure, and it's sort of, rather than programming, it's almost like paint by the numbers. It wasn't something I enjoyed too much. I'm sure that for somebody who did it for a living, in terms of like, I got to get an app together, then probably makes a lot more sense. But I'd sort of like a free range chicken kind of programming, just sort of typing code. But boy, I tell you, both Android and Apple have these special programming. The language, I'm trying to think what Apple came out with a programming language, and it was a sort of a cool language. Like I said, it's all sort of in this tight box that they have. Um, so I don't know if they revive the watch industry or not, Clyde. My own hunch is, I did bring attention to what was on your wrist, but I think people are more thinking of the old Dick Tracy two-way radio than they were, like a pretty standard mechanical watch. I don't know. Cartier, it's like Rolex for white chicks. Oh no, I tell you, Cartier has gone through more kind of weird things. In the 70s, they came out with that Musc de Cartier, which was one of the worst lines of watches ever. And I sort of, at that time, they sort of wrecked it, the Cartier name for a lot of people. And Caspi, forgot her. She's got this long double name. But anyway, Caspi, I thought was really going to make a big difference. And to tell you the truth, I don't know if she did or not, because she came out with some really crackerjack movements, but I don't know if they went anywhere. This is one of the things that that is sort of interesting as more and more women get into the upper echelons of, all the different kinds of professions. There you may see some executive level kind of things. We had a couple provosts, in fact, all of the provosts that we had where I was this last position were women. And I don't even remember if they paid any attention to watches or not. But anyway, you have one attorney was telling me that a lot of the women attorneys are now starting to take a look at some seriously, good watches. And I always think of Maritz Grossman and Christine Hutter, running. I think that's, some of her watches for women. Big old watches. You can tell the time with those little bitty watches for women. Like, that might change things. The guys I work with in the prison love Rolex and Sub-Seiko divers. Those are great ones. My son's in the military, and I'll have G-Shocks. Yeah, G-Shock is, if I were in the military, I'd get a G-Shock too, especially if I were on the other side and getting bombed. Let's see. Hey, Dr. A and B, how you doing? Hey, Johnny. All electricians wear G-Shocks. Yeah, they would. That's a G-Shock for electrician. There's a certain irony to the name of the watch and the nature of the work. I used to fly with a guy. Really an interesting guy. He used to work for the electric. He was one of those guys that would climb up on the poles, and he was telling me that one of the things that they had to go through and was they'd grab a live line. They had this in a controlled environment. They'd grab a live line and were taught how to let go. Apparently, I guess if you grab a live line right before you die of electrocution, it's hard to let go. And so they had this training where they would grab, and I could just see what it would do to my watch. I got magnetized problems enough right now. Boy, that would magnetize me and the watch. But that's sort of interesting. Yeah, it can take decades then to a bad first impression, Clyde. I agree. I agree completely. And this is like I got a terrible impression of both IWC and Breitling, and to some extent Cartier for different reasons. Though Cartier seems to do some stuff. The reason I mean, IWC and Breitling aren't exactly forthcoming about what's in their movements, and that bugs me. Now, I've also run into something a little different. Maybe you guys have an opinion about this. I've been looking at some of these really top drawer watchmakers who've gone ahead and made their own watches, but a lot of the watches they make are really good watches, but they'll put something on top of a ETA or something, which I think is really. I mean, when I talk about modifications, I'm not talking about doing a WOSOP watch school, changing a 6498 into a regulator by moving the hour hand up to 12 o'clock, or the post for the hour hand up to 12 o'clock. I'm talking about doing some really amazing things. For a while, in fact, Agenor, most of the stuff they did were simply modules they put on. Like on my Harry Winston, they just put on the bi-retrograde. On the one that they did for who is it? Van Cleave and Arpels, the time here and the time there, the one we were looking at to see if we could get them to make something. It turned out they made the whole thing. They tried originally that watch when it was first let out by Arpels had something like an ETA or something underneath, and then they put this thing on top of it. And then when Jean-Marc Wiederrecht from Agenhor got a hold of it, he said, "Man, we're going to have to do this from the ground up. So, and it's funny, they've always had a great reputation. I mean, a spectacular reputation. Even though they have some watches they made, they simply put these super duper modules on them, and without without any kind of pretense to being anything else. I don't know. Hey, Geezer, how's it going? Um, I see 50 Apple watches for everyone mechanical. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think the Apple watches where you live, Lee, have earthquake meters on them, and so you can tell what's going on. Uh, yeah, Tag Heuer, Movado. Yeah, all they've got. You know, like some of them know if you don't people who don't know anything about watches, which is like most of the planet, uh, if they like something, they like it. So I mean, and there are even fewer who know or care about mechanical watches. Oh man. Oh hey John, what's up? Um, I call that souped up the easy way out. Uh, Dominic, in some cases that's true, in other cases it's not. And this is what I'm just discovering. Because I've been looking at some watches by some really top-notch guys. They either got $100,000 watches that have, multiple tourbillons, and do everything on them. I think somebody was telling me that Millet, is it Richard Millet? The guy is, somebody said there, who was it? They called them Invictus for millionaires. But they have some really interesting stuff in them. I think the vintage watch business has brought a lot of people back to quality modern watches. Lee, that's a good observation. I think there's something like that. Yeah. Van Cleef Planetarium is cool. Geezer, I'm not positive, but I think the Van Cleef Planetarium, which I agree is uber cool, was designed by Christian Vanderklaw. Okay, and my little series I have, he did the moon phase, which is not going to impress anyone. Oh, you do have one with a moon phase. But the thing about that watch is that it's got a Soprod A10, which I've learned to just love that movement. That people thought, oh, that's just a knockoff of an ETA. It never was. It's sort of an application of a 4L from Seiko. And this was Seiko's bid to get into high horology, and it fell flat on its face because most Seiko buyers wanted lower price watches. And so when they came out with this one that was just a little more expensive with this really great movement in it, it fell flat in its face. So they said, well, we'll work with the Swiss on this thing. And Soprod, so they did it with Soprod. And so they ended up with this really interesting, you got these weird stories behind it. And so a lot of people say, oh, that's sitting on an ETA. It has the same dimensions of an ETA, so they can put them into watches that used to use ETA, but otherwise there's got nothing to do with an ETA. Um, Good to see yeah, Lee. I tell you, I brought it back just for you. I heard that you like cupcakes. I'm starting to look like a cupcake if I don't with this pandemic, man. Uh, we have what Connecticut is one of the few states that has the same kind of curve that Europe has because we did the same thing. Even though we got hit really hard initially because we had, first of all, we got all of the overflow from New York because Fairfield County is sort of where the man in the gray flannel suit was made about. They get on the Metro North and head into the city for their work, and so that was our first, and then it sort of worked its way up the coast to New Haven and then up the Connecticut River Valley to where we are. But then they instituted everything that had to be instituted, and now we're in sort of the downhill. But I'm not going outside for a while because man, it just Everything's closed. Okay, a lot of manufacturers' movement are just carbon copies of ETAs anyway. Well, apathy, boy, that is less true than you might think. There's some truth to that, but this is what you need to find out about for the next person you hear that says something like that. And that's this: is that what they have done is that ETA was so popular in watches that they didn't take the ETA structure, but they took the ETA pivot points and size. And so if you look into them a little more deeply, you're going to find out they're in no matter, shape, or form ETAs. So like the next time you hear someone say that, say, wait a minute, no, this is what's going on. The compound problem due to COVID, the Swiss are on vacation, parts are getting harder to get. Oh yeah, no kidding. You know, my beloved blue Culpa, Parmigiani Culpa, is getting service and overhauled down in Miami right now. And so I'm going to have like, it better be a new watch for what they're charging when it comes back. Um, yeah. Uh, yeah, Lee Van Cleef made the watch. It was a tough one. What are your thoughts on Jacob and company? I think it is what it is, which is like, here's a guy who went to a quickie 6 months jewelry training class, namely Jacob, and got in, started making a lot of bling watches, and was popular with certain people. Unfortunately, some of those certain people were involved in, ended up doing money laundering for drug firms. And so old Jacob had to go to jail for a while, and he came back and he's doing the same thing again. He's working with some watch company, but I don't think very much of them at all as horology. Okay, uh, because there's just, I mean, not really good horology. So that's my opinion, just in case you wanted to know. Um, I had a Visconti with a Soprod, very impressed with the accuracy of the movement, especially given the beating the watch took. Yeah, man, I tell you, because apathy, boy, what you get with that blasted Soprod 810? Because I used to wonder why are certain companies using that thing? It's because it's got this fantastic Seiko attempt to get into high horology movement in it. And I guess they gave up on that and they went with a Grand Seiko and did some different things there. They went in two different directions with the Grand Seiko. One was a spring drive, and the other one was simply uh, doing more and more with sort of traditional, traditional but not traditional mechanical. OKC gave our governor the finger and mandated masks yesterday. Good for OKC. I mean, my God, these are people. I was working on a video. I swear to God, there's some people who do not understand what this pandemic is about. Some people, oh, it's just like the flu. Some people probably is, but it's got these long-term effects that they're starting to find out now that are not very nice. And so, I think some of the, some, especially for the younger people that have little or no symptoms, or mild ones, and they say, "Oh, everything's fine," but then they got something inside of them that's not good news. And then also on top of that, there's the antibodies aren't sticking around. I really am hoping that there's just one at Oxford and one somewhere else. They're working on some really good antibodies. Ones that'll if you get a shot, we'll get this whole thing behind us, man. Because it's killing business. It's not to mention people's health. One of my sons is on and off of work because of it, and that's no good. Um, He's not sure about a mask. Oh man, sort of the I think the governor of North Dakota, who is a party faithful for do your own thing, is in trouble. Um, yeah. Ah, Jacob's astronomy equal gold-plated, diamond-encrusted poly geezer. Oh, okay. Yeah, they got geezer. That was funny. Um, anyway, hey, Aaron Jimison, how you doing? What are the long-term effects? I don't watch the TV. I don't blame you. It's sort of some. This is one of the best descriptions I've heard of. You turn on the TV, it's like Groundhog Day. It's the same thing over and over, and it's like, oh, that's no fun to watch. They're just apathy boy. They're just starting to find out what the long-term effects are, and this is doesn't bother me. I think the long-term effects for people my age are pretty permanent, so we don't have to worry about after it. But so I'm staying home. But the other ones, I don't know. Like they may not be able to have children. They don't know. There's kinds of how this bug affects different parts of your body. Um, the kids going out and going to parties and stuff like that, wild spring break weekends. Who wouldn't want to do that? Who wouldn't? But man, I tell you, it's stuff is so bad. I mean, you can tell yourself, oh, it's just a flu, but it's not just the flu. See, the thing is that coronavirus comes in a number of different ways, and COVID-19 is in a very bad way. So that's what we're dealing with right now. And I will be so happy when we get a vaccine for it. They'll get one, and they told them it's going to take between a year and a half, and they've been working on one at Oxford for 4 years, and so that one is, we got lucky on that. Also, too, I think that the the technology every time they have sort of a pandemic like thing, the technology they're using to get at it is a little better than last time. Just like in the space shots, they're able to put 10 times more 100 times more computer power in a rocket that they shoot up today than they did back in the 60s. Hi, Injured Kit. How you doing? Okay, Bruce, take care. Yeah, I know, man. You guys got it all. They're going to make Oklahoma Part 2.0 the play. Nature found humans kryptonite. Yeah, no kidding. Oh man. In the time we have a vaccine for COVID-19, Wuhan lab will have cooked up another virus. Hi, Matthew. Matthew, I'm afraid we're sort of ending it right now because it's only for a half hour, but thanks for dropping by. There have been a lot of no COVID in Guernsey over 90 days now, but our borders are still basically locked down. It's a good thing, too. Somebody, there was a guy who was, I think he was on he's one of these guys. I got an email from him, or it was either an email or a comment, who's from St. Martin in the Caribbean, and their particular little island has none of it. So I guess they kept everybody off. Good to see you too, Indritz. Whereas a Seiko, have a look at the brand new Seiko. I'll take a look at Seiko. Seiko, as long as Seiko doesn't have a quartz watch in it, as long as it doesn't have a spring drive, nothing wrong with a spring drive. Great technology. I'm just not interested in quartz. That's all it is. Nothing bad about it. Oh, good, Andrea. I'm great. You know, staying at home, growing my hair. That's all I got to do. Oh, okay, guys. Well, listen, everybody, be super safe. We'll have another live chat this afternoon at 4 o'clock New York time if you're around. And thank you all for coming by. You had some great comments today. Take care, be well, wear a mask, and social distance, and stay at home if you can, and play with your watches. Take care.